I am Greg Gaylor, the Executive Director of the Boston Preservation Alliance, and I thank Chief Cook for the shout out earlier. We sent in a letter which I hope you've all had the opportunity to review, and I could speak on many of the questions raised today, but I'll keep myself to some prepared testimony to try to keep the time. For over 40 years, the Boston Preservation Alliance has worked to protect places, promote vibrancy, and preserve character here in Boston. We represent over 140 businesses and 30 organizations across the city and hundreds of individuals from every neighborhood. Historic resources and the unique character of each city neighborhood are central to Boston's success, to its appeal to tourists and businesses, and why so many are so proud Boston is their home. Icons like the Old State House to neighborhood spots like Wally's or Slade's or Doyle's or the St. James African Orthodox Church, they define and empower this city and our relationship to it. Boston wouldn't be the place we love, it wouldn't be as economically and socially successful without its historic places. But as you all know, with the success comes development pressure, teardowns, displacement, and the homogenization across neighborhoods, the loss of the connection to place that we all love. And I want to point out that despite common beliefs, historic preservation harmonizes well with affordability, it's environmentally beneficial, and advocates for thoughtful change and evolution, not stopping or freezing the city. Yet for a city that touts its history, the singular agency entrusted to oversee, guide, and plan the stewardship of our historic resource struggles. You heard it. It struggles to keep up with its regulatory requirements, for attention and influence, and it finds itself impossible to have the proactive role Boston needs and you're all calling for. Despite the cries of residents of the loss of historic places that matter to them, we haven't had a new historic district in 11 years. Places of value to Boston, such as the North End and Charlestown and Roxbury, have no cohesive protection. And as you've heard about the backlog, 77 or 80, depending on how you count, places considered important enough to protect and to be protected landmarks remain in a review backlog that's been there for decades. And despite recognition that our history and historic places should be equitable and reflect all our stories and the evolution of preservation that recognizes that, our surveys and assessments of historic places that truly set the groundwork for what is recognized and protected are antiquated and fail to represent that full history. If we all truly believe that these places matter as we say they do, the Boston Landmarks Commission budget must be enhanced, despite what staff has politely responded to your requests. As you noted, Chair, the Landmarks Commission budget is rolled up into the Environment Department and fairly opaque. But based on the limited information I've been able to extract, I recommend that the Landmarks Commission budget be increased by $350,000. That's merely 0.01% of the mayor's proposed 2021 operating budget. That would allow a modest bump in staff salaries to reduce the flight to other city agencies in nearby communities that you've mentioned, and it would provide 3 additional staff to allow the BLC to be more proactive, to get to work to address that backlog and survey deficiencies, to work with neighborhoods to better address their concerns and protect places that matter to them, and to work more collaboratively across City Hall. Despite what the city team said, they are woefully understaffed, and that's why they aren't doing many of the things you've asked. So finally, I just want to say, please remember that the Landmarks Commission isn't a nice to have, it's a must have. They have a regulatory role with legal responsibilities. In the last several years, they've reviewed over $1.5 billion worth of design review applications each year. The Landmarks Commission moves the city forward while guiding stewardship for future generations and needs financial support. And I'd happy to provide my perspective on any of the questions you raised earlier, if you'd like. Thank you very much for your time and your interest.
Thank you so much, Greg.